I think for both of us as the directors of the Roxbury International Film Festival, first we want to say congratulations. We are really excited to screen your film in Boston at your home university, which is really exciting. And Adam, we've had films of yours before, so
It's true.
we were really excited to bring you back. So for Powering Puerto Rico, there's so many questions to ask about it, but I think the first one is, where are we now in the process of powering Puerto Rico in the way that Eugene has talked about in the film, and other opportunities that may be available for the island?
Technology exists, right? It's a matter of properly configuring the technology. And so we continue to build rooftop systems and design for those that need our designs. But I think the main problem now is the absence of a mindset for renewable energy. In other words, if a culture or an area doesn't have it in their guts, an understanding of just the basics of how these systems work, it's very difficult to deploy them. And understanding that a solar energy system essentially has three components: solar panels, batteries, and the electronics that integrate. Those are the three components. And right now, there's just not enough awareness that these three don't have to be replicated in every house, right? The batteries are the most expensive component, right? So really the batteries, the electronics can be more localized, and the panels on every rooftop. There are ways if you really think this through, but if you don't, then there's just this generalization that's made as solar panels, batteries, electronics cost this much, and it's never going to work. And in fact, it won't work if we don't develop a better understanding amongst government officials, the public, city managers. There's just lack of understanding of how it works. So where we are today is needing to now solve a mass education problem, right? In other words, people should hear about what renewable energy is in the 8th and 9th grade, because these are going to be the decision maker. Adults today, people like our age, those decisions aren't going to be made. So today we came to that realization. You want to deploy something, you end up spending all your time trying to explain how it works, and it's all foreign to them.
Yeah, I mean, it's interesting because it's, clearly there are challenges, there continue to be challenges, but one of the things too, and Adam, for you is, you trying to educate people and help them understand what this is all about, and why this is important, and the incredible devastation that Maria caused on this island. What were some of the challenges for you as a filmmaker, making this film and bringing this sort of like story to light?
We had so many challenges and hurdles on this production. I come from the TV world before here, and I've done shows all over the world, and this was by far the hardest shoot I've ever been involved with. We don't have time for me to go through everything that went wrong over the shoot, but I'll give you some of the highlights, I guess, so to speak. So after a couple months of pre-production, Gina and I getting together, kind of writing, shooting scripts, outlines, what would work, what wouldn't. We started, I think, filming the first or second week of March 2020. So we're down in Puerto Rico for about 5 days or so, and then of course the world changed dramatically, and everything was put on hold. And we kept in touch, but ultimately the project was scrapped. 8-9 months later, Gina and I circled back, and we kind of thought, boy, we hate to not take one last kind of crack at this and say we did everything we could to make this happen. We tried 3 or 4 times before, but it just wasn't lining up. June 2021, I don't even know what the math on that is, but 17 months later, we're back at it. And but before we went down there, we had to make sure we could do this, meaning, you know, what was on paper, we had to put into practice, and not so much from the filmmaking point of view, but more so for Gene and his team, because this has never been done before.
Right.
And it worked. And, you know, once we tested the system here, now we had to do it in Puerto Rico. And so we chose a date in July of 2021 when everyone was free for about 10 days or so. And there's a line in the film from, I believe it's Marlon, who's from Haiti. And he said he thought he knew, you know, yeah. And hot is an understatement. It was brutal. You know, 10 minutes on the roof, you are cooked. There's no shade. It's a metal roof. You're drenched. There's no escape. So you're just kind of going, you know, and we had to be real careful about heat stroke, especially going up to the roof, because it was this old kind of rusty ladder. Yeah, it was tough. And then, you know, while filming, of course, Eugene had his accident.
I know, my gosh.
Yeah, which was honestly, it was terrifying, because we didn't know. He was so calm in the moment, but you knew something was wrong. And, you know, we go to the hospital, and we didn't know what this meant for him for the short term, for the long term. But, you know, Gene, he kept saying the show must go on. And it did. There was an island-wide gas shortage, so you had to fill up. You didn't know it would take an hour and a half, sometimes 2 hours, to get gas. A water main broke that cut off all access to Ramon's house. Trying to think what else. Our drone, our lovely drone, got tangled up in a tree about 100 feet up and is still there today. So with Eugene back in San Juan, I don't speak Spanish, and my colleague Benjamin, who was down there with me, he didn't speak Spanish as well. So we were down to Tito, and so we knew we had the interview with Ramon on one of our final days in Utuado. And Ramon's interview was always meant to be sort of the heart of this film.
Yes, right. Exactly.
Yeah. So we knew that going in. And we also knew if we didn't nail this, then this film kind of doesn't work, unfortunately. So, you know, we get to Ramon's house, and Tito calls and says he can't make it. He has to go back to San Juan. So now we have no translators. And the only way to communicate was with this app I had downloaded. And, you know,
Babble.
Yeah, didn't have time to. The cell phone service wasn't great, so you couldn't just put someone on the phone and have them talk back. So we just kind of had to go. So I told Ramon, hey, keep these answers long, just stretch it out, just tell me your life story, and we'll go from there. And he did. I mean, I think we talked for about 35-40 minutes, and no clue what we had when we said goodbye. And what I mean by that is, you know, we got in the car, and I had earmarked some questions that, you know, I thought would evoke an emotional response, and it didn't. And then the sort of matter-of-fact questions I asked, you know, Ramon, he got emotional. So we were both kind of scratching our head, like, what do we have here? We have no idea.
Oh, right, because you can listen to it, but you don't understand it.
Exactly. Yeah, you don't know what's coming back at you. And it was pouring rain, and there's just animals running in and out. In the moment, we thought we just cannot win. But in the end, we got so lucky with Ramon. He said things that I couldn't even imagine. I couldn't even write. And then so we get back to San Juan for Eugene's interview the next day. But, you know, Eugene is just out of the hospital. And, you know, we're asking this man to sit for 6 to 8 hours as we do the master interview, because this was really our only window of time to do it. Eugene had medical appointments coming up, and, you know, we were due to fly back to Boston. So we didn't know if we postponed. We didn't know if we'd see Eugene in a month, 2 months, 6 months, whatever. So we kept going. And, you know, that's sort of the production side of it. And then in the edit, you know, this film was a jigsaw puzzle. It just seemed to be, you know, kind of constantly evolving. I would say we easily had enough content for 80 minutes, but if you want, you know, this film to resonate, if you want to be impactful, you can't lose your audience. And, we're
Right.
asking the audience to follow along on some pretty heavy topics of environmental justice, social justice, energy justice, not to mention the inner workings of hybrid vehicle batteries and, the history of the electrical grid of Puerto Rico. So, it's a lot to ask. So, we thought, okay, this really shouldn't go beyond 35, 40 minutes, even short if possible. And we ended up at 40, which, I was pretty proud of. I'd say other than that, this was a pretty simple film to make.
But I think that one of the things that carries the film, and I think you did it's seamless. You can't see any of that in there. I mean, we see the tragedy of Eugene and at his foot, and we see the emotion, but you kind of carry your story, Eugene, along with Ramon's story. And that's the beauty of the film. So there might be a lot of technical things happening in the film, but we're also following two people's journey. And, so I think we understand it a little bit more.
I mean, there must have been, it's not only the challenges, but there must have also been some frustrations then for you, Eugene, as, trying to get people to understand this and continue. I mean, we're in 2023, right? And I think that, your film has been around to a lot of festivals and people understand that we're in the whole conversation around climate change. We know that it's not going to change. If anything, the hurricanes, the weather, it's going to get worse. And people need to be safe. I think people are going to be asking too, then, I know we said what next, but where are we? How's the government of Puerto Rico, helping or thinking about solar, and how are they, focused on climate change and understanding that this could happen again, and you're living there, and the medical issues that happen, and people don't have the ability to just get off island.
And Lisa and I were also wondering, what was it like to have to leave? I know you left for medical reasons, but I think that was kind of an important piece when everyone else there is not able to.
Well, that's an interesting point. The government's thinking about it, and what the government has plans for may be effective for maybe 60% of the population, but 40% of the population live in poverty. Right. And poverty. And there's no plan for them, right? These wooden houses. And that's a problem, right? And I think it's, when you talk about who can leave, it's funny because, you mentioned that I have the option to leave, right? But actually, that's really not the way to look at it. The problem is that I and people like me have the option to stay. It's Puerto Ricans that do not have the option to stay. See, just to give you an idea, in 2010, the population of Puerto Rico was 3.7 million. In 2022, it was 3.2 million. You see, it's inverted. Who can stay and who cannot stay?
Yeah, that's interesting.
The issue is that there are no opportunities, and Puerto Ricans are finding it very difficult to stay. And the average household in Puerto Rico now is 2.74 people per household, meaning there's less than one person born per family today. This is a disaster. The fact that who can stay and who cannot stay, the demographics are changing. That's the reason why we want to build plants. That's the reason why we need to fix this, because we want these neighbors to stay.
To be able to live there. To
live there. We don't want to see Puerto Ricans become a minority in their own country.
Well, I mean, it comes down to, and, Adam, I'm sure you have things to say about this because you do a lot of social justice work and justice. But it comes down to all the things that you talk about in the film, and energy justice, just social justice, just housing justice, and it's not just tackling climate change, it's tackling so many other things in order to make all of this work.
To generalize it, MLK said, injustice anywhere is a threat to justice everywhere.
Right.
And so you can get a picture of what these injustices are going to look like by having a good look at what's going on in Puerto Rico.
Right.
And that goes hand in hand with the development of a renewable energy economy.
Yeah, I mean, that's one of the things that we did want to ask you is, you've been to all these festivals. What do you want people mostly to take away from this film, to learn from this film, to question, to become activists in some way?
Yeah, I mean, I'll keep this one brief because my first one was pretty long-winded, but yeah,
That's right. You're editing, Adam, so
it's true. My hope for this film and for Puerto Rico, it's simple. I hope this starts a conversation. We're not saying that this solution is the only way, but it's an alternative, and we think it's a pretty damn good one. And I hope people that like Eugene and Ruth, champions of science and environmental justice, get the platform that they deserve. And ultimately, I hope Puerto Rico finds its way. I'd like to add too, kind of a neat thing about this film that we didn't realize at the time was, we were lucky enough to get Tito Kayak through Eugene and Ruth Santiago, and the little time I spent with both of them, they're both, legends in Puerto Rico, and Tito's a sort of a folk hero, activist, and you cannot walk down the street and you're stopped by 5-10 people just kind of coming up asking for autographs. I was with Ruth only for a few hours, and people kept yelling out the car window, and I go what are they saying? And she got she's a little shy about it, but she said, thank you for doing the work that you do, and
Wow.
keep going. So I think the hopes for us too is, with them attached, more and more people will see this in Puerto Rico, and it gets into the right hands.
right. Eugene?
So I'd like people to start thinking about extending the life cycle of batteries that are composed of materials that have geopolitical issues. But equally important is, I need people to understand, where is Puerto Rico? Who are Puerto Ricans? Over 50% of Americans are not aware that Puerto Ricans are at least limited American citizens. Rick Perry, who was the Secretary of Energy when he was thought Puerto Rico was a foreign country, as did a number of government officials. So that's what I hope comes from the film.
Wow. I mean, for the two of you, that's pretty incredible. And I do think that a lot of that comes across, but I do think so much of it is really important to be constantly talking about that, because we know that, and it's sort of like the unknown or the misconceptions that power people's imaginations and their minds, and they don't necessarily do the research that they need to understand that. And that when a catastrophic event like Maria comes and destroys, an island, that, people need to understand what that means. And it's not just to turn away and say, oh my gosh, isn't that horrible? But to understand that, that these are US citizens, and they need that support.
That's
So
good.
I know our audiences are going to want to know an update on Ramon.
So Ramon is doing well. We're now doing more work. So we actually withdrew that battery and will be upgrading it and putting new ones in. We're learning more about the reconditioning of these batteries. And also, I think Ramon contacts even Adam every few months, and my wife as well. Yeah. And everything is working beautifully. They have solar energy when the things go down, and are doing very well. And they keep in well contact with us.
All right. Well, thank you both for your time. This was incredible.
Bye-bye.
All right, y'all. Have a good night.
Bye. You kind of introduce yourself and tell us a little bit about the making of Maybe a Nation Artist, why films like this are important.
The reason I made this film is because all the negative images I saw of Haiti, and I saw Haiti had no agency from mainstream after the earthquake. And as a Haitian American, I wanted to show just a different image. And I just went on this discovery of interviewing artists in, in Haiti and throughout the Haitian diaspora in New York and create fabulous. It was like, the community was very supportive of this. Once I told them about it, I told them you weren't just not going to be a soundbite. You were going to be able to tell your perspective. And a lot of the artists opened up. So, and I think just having family support. I mean, my mother went out there with me. So when they saw that she was there with me, they saw that it was a serious project. My wife, it becomes a community project for you to do something like this. And it's been over 10 years, so first it started as my thesis project. I was in grad school, then I just went and kept shooting because people would always ask for it. I was like, let me finish the feature. So I think it's just to show really a different image of Haiti and just seeing we have a rich culture history through the arts. And that was the reason why I did, and just to empower, and I run the Haiti International Film Festival. That's the same thing. I started off with this, then after that, there were other diaspora filmmakers that were Haitian who were trying to reconnect, and they wanted to go back home to change things in a sense. So I think that's what it is. It's really wanting to see a different, change in narrative.
Okay. And do any of you have questions for Jacques about the film?
Yeah. Okay.
You want the mic?
I can speak loudly. I'm an educator.
Okay.
I think so. One thing that I really enjoyed was the thread between the two films of children and the next generation, sort of as the future and our responsibility to them as adults, but also them as the future of change. And one thing that I think was so fascinating to me was hearing all of the artists in your film talk about their interaction with children outside of their work as artists themselves, but also their commitment to the children. So one thing that I'm curious about is, will you make another film for next summer? Sort of talking more about that piece, because to me that's just so fascinating. So
Yeah, I think I really want to do one with, this is a series I want to just first do the artists, the visual artists. Then I think I want to do one with the writers and probably musicians. But I think writers, and I think I saw this other film yesterday, have a special, because they always have to and I think for writing, you just have to write on paper. So it doesn't cost you as much as filmmaking, but I think there's just such a tradition with Haitian writers and writers from the diaspora. I think we need to show that we have our 200 years of showing Black humanity that people really don't get to see. But I think those are the things that we need to, I think we need to showcase that. And in the music, there's been many, it's just finding, it's the resources. It's always the resources to tell the story and to represent it in a certain way. You need to, get the story and get the community behind it. You have to get the buy-in. Yeah.
Thank you very much, Jackie. You really changed the narrative, and I appreciate that very much. I would like to ask you, given this initial artist, how did you get to pick the artist in your film? Because we have million movies.
I mean, I was.
Did everyone hear the question? It's funny. How did you pick the artist in the film, right?
Yes, the initial artist.
Yeah.
I mean, a lot of artists I got from the gallery owners, unless the one of the guys on Petroville, it was the artists that were just the most sincere. And I was looking for who's our Basquiat now? Who's our Basquiat when I went on the East Coast and interviewed Eagles? Who's doing this amazing work? So that's what the artists I look, the ones who are really the craftsmen. That's the one I look for. The ones who were, it was how they communicate with the community, their message, and they would just rise to the top. You would interview, but it seemed like the real artists. Edward Duval-Curry, I just took my shot, and he answered the phone, and he's like, "Come down." So a lot of artists were like that. So it was different from my mom's generation. That was something may happen. I was but I guess me being a little naive, was like, that was kind of my advantage. I just think it was like, I looked for it, but I read like, since I had a year and a half from the earthquake, I read all the Haitian art books. So I kind of knew who I wanted, who was doing that work. And there was a point, even other Haitian filmmakers, they're like, who's your star? I was like, what? I thought this was a, but they still, I had to get Edward Duval-Curry and just the guys that have the personalities. These guys just have personalities. Like, this guy's like, I'm not gonna take my shirt off. I'm like, okay, let's do it. But he was great, you know what I mean? So, I think you just kind of have to go with it, and you'll find your stars. See the back.
No, go ahead.
You gonna say? Okay.
Good afternoon, my name is Jean Robinson. I bring you greetings from the Haitian Artists Assembly of Massachusetts. And thanks for the work that you do, creating awareness about Asian art. I wanted to ask you if you can tell us more about your interactions and when you find contacting artists from the area of Jacmel. I saw some very nice imageries.
Right.
Is there a particular cachet to Haitian art emerging in Jacmel away from immigrants?
Yeah, there was a lot of paper mache work in Jacmel. That's what it's really known for. I think I'm mostly focused on Jacmel and the kids. I didn't really have a connection. They had to have a film school there, so that was my connection with the filmmakers. But with the artists, I didn't really. Most of the artists I got were in Port-au-Prince. It's an artistic city, so I think it's just like going to Haiti 4 or 5 times, you find out every area has a different culture of production. So I think it's just like, if you go to the South, you'll probably see, or when I went to Cap Haitian recently, and just seeing the architecture, just the artists, different, in the North, the art is very, it's just showing the humanity of the people playing, checkers and things like that, so I think it's just different. It's just kind of but I think that's another side, that's where a lot of the Haitian art, you have the North and you have the kind of mysticism, that's another part of there's those are the two, there's many other styles, but those are the two that I focus on and I have a Haitian bricolage gallery, and I show stuff that shows the humanity of Haiti, and of course our revolutionary leaders, and just people who are just self-assured, we don't get to see Black people in that context a lot of times. So that's what I love when you're here. You get that type of energy, and you get that vibe, you get that that electricity in a sense that you don't get. I'm not saying you don't get here, you have to really look for it here. Or when we're in other communities of color who they go through some of these trauma, and art is like kind of their therapy. I think she had a question in that guy. Very good.
Are there a lot of places outside of Haiti that you can buy the art?
Yeah, they have a lot of art dealers. Yeah, they actually I'm part of I just got part of the Haitian Art Society, and they're having a show in Southern California. All these all these people have private collections of Haitian art in San Diego, in Beverly Hills, and they're actually going to show art when I get back on the 30th at my house in North Hollywood. So a lot of there's a lot of have the Haitian bricolage gallery Lakai. She's been doing it for 30 years. There's definitely there's definitely art lovers that definitely will purchase art, and I think in New York, LA, Miami, there's always so just reach out. Since I interviewed a lot of the gallery owners and stuff, if you want any information, I can definitely provide that. It's right here, you see. No,
The
right
Haitian
here.
artist system of Massachusetts, yeah, goes back to 1995. It's a kind of fellowship, and we can actually refer people
Yep.
to either individual artists or to maybe 3 galleries that are outside of Boston, but are fully functional. Yes.
Yeah, there's expertise. Trust me. Yeah.
I have a related question. If you can't necessarily afford to buy items at college, like the sculpture or anything itself, do you have a link to a website where you can buy prints or something where it might be more accessible? I don't know if these artists are stuff.
Yeah. I have. So I actually made prints for them. So I think, but I learned that from it was an African American artist, actually Charles Bibbs. That's what he does. He was very famous from the Bill Cosby show. Like there was a big era for African American art in the 80s. So that was a way from getting a lot of new collectors with people who were just buying prints. That were like 50, 60 bucks. Then later, because that's why I started buying this, prints of like Haitian art. Then from there, I started buying original. Every time I went to Haiti, I bought more and more, and I started, after that, I started curating Haitian art shows. So when I have the exhibition, I get all the work framed. Then, so that's, when you love, you start with where you're at. I think, if it's a print you start with, then later then later you'll find out 10 years. You'll be a collector. You'll be a curator. Like when I just when I was in college, all I could afford was a print. But now, I've been teaching. I teach at Pasadena City College. So I'm a professor too. So now, of course, I have more resources. So, then things change. But I think it's at the beginning, just buy what you love. Buy what you can. Then there's going to be a time that you're going to have more resources. And it's just, but at the beginning, just buy. I think just like you watch films, you buy things you love, and it'll take you on a new path.
Okay, one more question,
And my question is more of a commerce question.
Okay.
Because, we travel other islands around the Caribbean. A lot of them I do see Asian art in those Caribbean islands. And we actually call them those Caribbean islands, instead of saying they're from Haiti. So my question for you is who's actually consuming Asian art? And, what's the market for it? And I guess I have a lot of questions, but the last one is, if you have to encapsulate the goal of this film, what would it be?
Say that again. Your last question.
The goal of the film. What do you want us to walk away with?
I want you to know the variety of Haitian art that's out there, and to see Haiti in a different light. Because I think a lot of times when people see Haiti, they see it from a deficit model or weakness, and to understand there is great art that's out there, and yeah, support artists, and I think, but usually when I go to other Caribbean islands, most of the art, it's from Haiti, so that's a thing that it's known for, but I think we just need more. We have the artists, but we need the producers, the people who's gonna push it, who's gonna get it. Like me being in art school, in film school, like somebody has to write about it, like it being in film festivals, all these things matter. It creates the value, so I think it's just our community has to, there's a lot of artists, but I think on the, that's helping somebody go to, like when I support an artist in Haiti, it's paying for his kids to go to school. It's like, it's, I don't know, just like I think after a while, just like, it's important that our community, is involved. But the market is the US. If you're asking just an economic level, it's the US, it's Europe. But hopefully our Haitian diaspora will start supporting too. Because when I go to collectors, I'm the only one that lives. There's very few people that when I'm going that look like me. So we have to see I think that's another side of it too. That and it came from me being Haitian American, going there and seeing It's very like, this should be showcased, but maybe that's for me being, you know, Haitian American and coming from Hollywood. That's a commerce driven place that you're like, you want to show in a way that, you know, that elevates it. That's not always show the disparity, because no one's gonna want to invest if you only show the disparity. Or we always get the bad news about Haiti. How are you gonna invest if you don't? You want to invest in a winning team and not a team that you already think is gonna lose. And if you're always, people always see the negative, you know. So that's what I try to do as a filmmaker, is just show that, you know, give a different platform, and hopefully people would. Yeah, and Haitian Embassy, I ain't gonna lie, there's been Haitian organizations that help. The Haitian Embassy, you know, flew us out there, where we got to show the film there. Atlanta Venice wrote an article about it, so it's showing at it's going to show at Atlanta for the Haitian Studies Association at Morehouse. So there are of us who are, but it's more, it seems like, on the educational side. And this film was like giving us a platform, you know, like this. I think it's great that our films can be shown at the historic Roxbury has been around for 25 years, you know, and I think it's, yeah, I want to show it to communities that they're going to get the impact, and hopefully you spread the news to other people, that they will book us at another college, or they'll book it, you know. So I think it starts for you sharing on social media your experience, you know, like that's really important, because people in movies, they go to movies that their friends say is cool. They go, so it's like, you guys who came to the movie, like, you know, on social media, follow us, yeah, I'm on Facebook, Shaquille Constant, the Haiti International Film Festival.org. Haiti's a nation of artists, and we're on all the platforms. So we're on Instagram, we're on Facebook. So, you know, most of the people, they're my students who, like, now, who are former film students who do my social media, who do, you know, so I think it's really, like, really working with your community. Yeah.
Well, we want to thank you very much for that film.